All right, well, welcome everybody. This is our third day on our panel for Denver Urban Gardens. My name is Rob Payo. I am the Director of K-12 Education. We have a great panel today. I just want to give more context about why we're doing what we're doing. Tomorrow is actually Earth Day, but we're celebrating Earth Day. We're celebrating Earth Week. And we brought in a bunch of our partners, our friends, anybody that wanted to come to speak to provide you all, the Doug community, and also beyond that, some time to think about these issues, these topics. And today is no different than any other day. We have a great panel with different perspectives on working with youth and the programs that are happening here in Denver. One of the things that I've been reflecting on is just how well we're networked in Denver to provide support in the different aspects of supporting the earth, for one thing, and supporting kids in particular is something we'll talk about today. So I'm going to share my screen just for a moment here to show you our panelists here. We have a lovely panelists, and we also can offer interpretations. So here I go with my Spanish. Here we go. Si usted necesita un intérprete, háganos saber escribiendo en el chat. We have an interpreter with us standing by, so type in the chat there if you're in need of it. Here are our panelists today. I'm going to stop sharing and introduce our panelists. If you could just get on the mic and tell us where you're from. Chris, let's start with you.
Sure. I'm Chris Woodburn from Denver Public Schools, and I work under the Sustainability Department and oversee gardens across the district.
Yes, indeed. Thanks so much, Chris. And Andrea, let's have you come on.
Hi, Andrea Pasquale. I am the Chronic Disease Prevention Program Coordinator at Denver Public Health, and I manage the Healthy Beverage Partnership, as well as our Serve Kids Better Denver campaign.
Great to have you. Lauren.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Howe. I'm the program administrator for the Healthy Food for Denver's Kids initiative, which is run out of the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment.
And last but not least, Mara, welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mara Fleischman, and I'm the CEO of the Chef Ann Foundation, which is a national organization headquartered in Boulder County. And we help schools move from process, heat, and serve to scratch cooking. Colorado is one of the biggest states that we work in. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, and then just a thank you again to all of you that have taken your lunch hour to join us. This session is being recorded, so if there are people you know that want to view this afterwards, please let them know about it. Let's jump on in, Chris, and you're going to set a wonderful tone for us. So I'll hand the floor to you. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Rob. So again, yeah, I'm Chris Woodburn with Denver Public Schools, and I honestly think I have one of the best jobs in the city because I get to spend my days educating students and working with students outside and inside with plants. Growing people and plants is what I say I do, and it's a whole lot of fun, and it's definitely better than sitting in front of the computer like we've been doing through COVID this past year. So I'm excited to get back outside and work with students in our gardens. Our gardens are not funded. The Department of Sustainability and DPS is unfunded. So we get all of our funding through grants, rebates from energy efficiency upgrades, and then we have awesome community partners like Denver Urban Gardens and Big Green that come in and establish gardens for our schools and then support programming for our students and provide opportunities that we normally wouldn't be able to do. DPS has about 120 gardens across the district, almost one at every school. My goal is in the next 5 years or so, every school has a garden. Because I think it's really important for our youth. I also think it's really important for our educators to get a chance to get outside and use an outdoor environment for the same stuff they normally would be doing inside. I started out in Denver Public Schools in special needs high school classroom for 5 years and realized that when we were outside in a garden, the kids had more fun, we were learning, and I was having more fun, and we were doing physical activity together. It took about 5 more years, but I turned that into my permanent job. And again, it's wonderful. I love what I do. And if you're an educator out there, please reach out and we'll connect and support whatever you're doing with your students or in the community. So when it comes to healthy habits and building those with our students, One of the things that's probably the single most important at this point in urban school districts is our students aren't interacting with nature. Even our playgrounds, by and large, are artificial settings. We do have some native plantings around and we're getting better, but the model when most of our schools were built simply wasn't to include nature as a strong component in learning or in just the school environment. And so having that exposure, and a lot of times gardens are the first time students are intentionally getting their hands dirty, interacting with plants, noticing bees, noticing birds, seeing what's happening in the garden. And so it provides that initial exposure. And the younger they are when we can get that, the more confident we are that they are going to appreciate nature and care for it and eventually become stewards of this place we call Earth. But back to building those healthy habits in nature, I want to talk about one program I've run that has taught me a lot about students and gardens and nature, and that's called Garden of Youth. It is primarily a job skills development program for our students with special needs, but we do 10 weeks of intense, about 1-to-5 ratio of coaches to students in our gardens, practicing soft job skills. And we do that through tending 8 garden sites across the district. And I tell the students, I don't care if we grow 1 tomato, as long as by the end of 10 weeks, you know what it takes to get and keep a job and what it would take to lose your job if that was your intention. And when they're done, they have a resume. If they did a good job, they have references, and we're eager to see them go out into the world and find some meaningful employment and more independence. But through that, I've learned that hands-on and physical work is important, and it builds that connection. And one thing that after 10 weeks, our students can turn around and point at what they've done and see the impact of what they've had, that they have had an influence on the world around them, that they aren't powerless. And we take a picture of our gardens with our students in front of them every week. And the awesome thing is at the end, you see the gardens grow, but you see the confidence of our students grow and their pride in what they've done. And that's because they're out there every week working, making that happen, working with nature. Another thing that's been important, and this is from the EC ears, the preschoolers, all the way through college and beyond, is sensory plants. Plants like the toothache plant that feels like you put a 9-volt battery on your tongue, or lemon verbena that smells like just absolutely amazing fragrance that fills the room. But that sparks wonder and it sparks curiosity. They want to know more. They want to experience and sense more. And for me, wonder and curiosity are the antidote to the apathy we see in students and adults towards the natural world, that see it as just a resource rather than as our home and our life support system and as a magical place. The other thing that I've learned is really important is we can't only work in our gardens. If we only spend our time watering on hot days and pulling weeds, we're not going to have the appreciation. We're not going to have a good experience. It's just work. And so if I had my way, we would have hammocks in all of our gardens so that a quarter of the time we're out there, we're just being, we're just listening, relaxing, we're observing nature, we're seeing the birds, the bugs, we're hearing the sounds they make, and we're just in that natural setting. We're exploring, we're looking for bugs. We get to see the species in our garden increase as our garden grows and food and habitat become available. And then gardens are awesome outdoor learning spaces, and we frame them like that. But beyond just STEM opportunities and literacy and math, it's a great place for yoga. It's a great place to do your gym classes because you're breathing healthier air, you're hearing those natural sounds, and it's just feeding our soul as well as building our bodies. And then if we get used to exercising outside, that's a habit that we can develop over time and build into our routine as adults. But probably the single most important thing that I think gardens do for our students and for our adults is that nutrition aspect of trying new foods. One of the students who came through Garden of Youth, and he was an exception, he came through twice, his first year, and I had worked with him in a classroom before I was the garden leader, he would not eat anything that didn't come out of a box, a bag, or a bottle. Even the first year when he grew his carrots and he was proud of the carrots he grew, he wasn't going to eat them. He was totally repulsed by dirt, and he didn't fundamentally get that all of our food comes from the ground. And that is when it's at its most cleanest. If we give that a wash, no one else has touched it but us. It hasn't been on a truck for 2 weeks. It hasn't been covered with chemicals because all of our gardens in DPS are organic. And so his name was Michael. And so the first year we were proud of the growth he made, but we also we recognized that he would really do well with having another session, another season of Garden of Youth, and brought him back. And that second year, Michael was our try new foods advocate, and he would run up to strangers, people walking by the gardens, and say, "Hey, have you tried a pineapple tomatillo?" And that's another great sensory one. It's like a little pineapple flavored jelly bean that comes in a wrapper. And when you see students say, like, "What is this?" And it's so sweet and so flavorful. I've had one student out of literally thousands who didn't like that, but it's been such an awesome gateway to getting students to try new things. And they might not like kale, and they might not like some broccoli that we grow in our hot environment, and it's a little bit more bitter. But that's the stuff that opens their eyes and opens their experience to nature has been so important. And if I could share that, yeah, just get out there, getting them trying new things. And if they're proud of what they've done, they're going to share it with others, and it's going to stay with them for life. So now I'll pause for questions or comments.
That's great, Chris. You can have a new title, Try New Foods Ambassador. I love it. Well, it's an honor for us to be a part of the Garden Network, School Garden Network at DPS. And Chris and I have, started a working relationship where we're going to get there, Chris. We're going to get gardens in all of the schools. I've got a question from Christine. Christine, it's so nice we've been emailing one another. So nice that you joined us. She has a comment and a question. The breakfasts and lunches in DPS for elementary schools don't seem really healthy. Lots of carbs and fat. It seems from what I hear from the meals my granddaughter shares with me. How can DPS get healthier meals? And is nutrition even discussed in class for K-5 grades?
Sure, I can speak to some of that, but I'm not in nutrition services. But having worked in schools, I see a cycle that's usually 5 to 7 years where there's a push for salad bars in schools, for healthy foods, and then we get a budget crunch or we get COVID where it's just so much more cost effective, and all of our lunches and breakfasts are free at this point to use that prepackaged stuff. And our kitchen staff knows that's not ideal, but on a budget, sometimes that is the solution that we have. But I do know that Nutrition Services is doing a heavy push for scratch cooking education, and we're reaching out for a grant about that. And then nutrition, as far as K through 5th grades, I don't know that it is part of what is required in curriculum. However, a lot of after school programs and a lot of physical education teachers will decide to include nutrition in that, but that's really a school by school case. And all of our schools with gardens have the opportunity to become wholesalers and get trained to sell what they grow to the cafeterias. So we know that it's local, we know that it's organic and healthy. And that's on our webpage, which I will share. And we have classes each August to train adults in food safe handling and get that healthy food, local food right into our cafeterias and onto the trays of our students. And we do have a project in the works for 2023 to grow our own food in greenhouses for our cafeterias. We're still working on a little bit of funding, but the design is in the works, and we're excited to see that come to fruition.
Yes, yeah. So Grace, more to come in terms of greenhouses in DPS. Doug also offers classes that can go out to schools, and we have a nutrition component in what we teach. And Mara is going to talk, at length about approaches that she's trying to get into schools as well. So that's great. And Mara's put a link on there. Great. Chris, I think we're good. You can, if you want to go on there.
Yeah, that's actually really what I had to cover. But if you are an educator in DPS or you're curious about bringing garden opportunities, please check out the webpage at DPS K12, sustainability.dpsk12.org. And there's a whole page on garden resources there, opportunities, our programming. And then I often have resources that are available to DPS educators like seed starting kits and grow bags. And I can come in and do workshops and support whatever initiatives you're doing in the classroom, or if you just need a day to get outside with your students, I'd love to support that. So thank you, Rob. Any other
Yeah. Before we move on though, Chris, I'm just curious, because of the pandemic, and we all recognize that kids need to be outside more. Has there been a change in the conversation about the garden space or outdoor spaces in the schools and DPS?
Sure, yes. Yeah, our gardens were kind of put on hold, except for our community partners, but we weren't having students work out in gardens last year. But it looks like that's back on for this summer in most cases. Rob, I spaced the second part of that question.
Just how is that changing the conversation?
Oh,
Just
sure. And then
outside.
there is a big push for developing outdoor classrooms. We've got 3 projects in the works. And I think that in response to COVID, but also just seeing that it's a real need and a real way to serve our students and community better, you will start to see outdoor classrooms being developed, especially at elementary schools. And then we'll move up through there through middle and high school.
That's great. That's great. Lauren has posted, and she will definitely have something to say in terms of supporting healthier nutrition. So yeah, so stay tuned on that. Grace, that's great that DSST is in the mix there. I know you've been doing some work with Big Green and getting gardens going over there. So all a part of the solution here. Let's Chris, thank you so much. We're going to switch over to Andrea. She's going to talk about healthy. Well, I'll just let you talk because I'll pass it over to you because there's so much that you do.
All right, getting everything in order here. All right. Well, thank you again and happy Earth Week, almost Earth Day to all. Again, my name's Andrea Pasquale. I am the Chronic Disease Prevention Program Coordinator over at Denver Public Health, which is associated with Denver Health Hospital. And I manage the Healthy Beverage Partnership, also referred to as the HBP, and as well as the Serve Kids Better Denver initiative here in Denver. So to start, the Healthy Beverage Partnership was formed in 2014 with the sole purpose of addressing health inequities and childhood unhealthy weight status in the state of Colorado. The partnership is made of the 6 public health agencies listed on this slide, and that makes up about 60% of the population in Colorado. So we're really heavily focused on Metro Denver. Our current focus is decreasing deceptive sugary drink marketing in public spaces and restaurants, decreasing the availability of harmful sugary drinks to children, especially our children of color, improving healthy norms and options for all families, and preventing costly chronic diseases that also we now know increase the risk of COVID impacts on health. Healthy Beverage Partnership has done a wonderful job of convening youth leader coalitions across the metro region, and they're really passionate about this work. They're leading social media campaigns, building awareness among their peers, and ready to engage stakeholders on this topic. But before I go into the youth coalitions, I want to share a little bit more about why we focus on the topic of kids' health. Colorado is, when you think Colorado, people think it's active, it's healthy, it's a lean state. We have the Rocky Mountains, folks are out hiking, we get to, mountain bike, we get to ski, but we really continue to struggle to provide healthy environments for our children. When you look at the prevalence of children who are at an unhealthy weight status, 25% have too much weight for their health. And then even just here in Denver, 30% of children have too much weight for health. And for our Latino children, we see even more are on an unhealthy weight status due to lack of access to unhealthy foods and places to be physically active. Healthy Beverage Partnership focuses on sugary drinks, and we do this because when you think of all the foods kids consume, there's an abundance of research linking sugary drink consumption to chronic diseases, including type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and even cancer. And we're seeing that kids consume now what amounts to a bathtub full of sugary drinks or 30 gallons of sugary drinks each year. It's a lot of sugary drinks. Children who drink at least one sugary drink a day, just one, are 55% more likely to be at an unhealthy weight status. And experts are saying that one dietary change with the biggest impact on your health is the elimination of sugary drinks from your diet. What many don't realize is that sugary drink consumption is linked to racist practices. Sugary drink consumption in itself is an issue of vast health inequities in which our low income and communities of color are disproportionately burdened of diseases associated with sugary drink consumption due to greater exposure to obesity promoting environmental influences. All that to say, the beverage industry works to specifically target marketing towards our most under-resourced populations. They use what the industry calls precision marketing to target youth of color, perpetuating systemic racism and preventing youth of color the same opportunities to live a healthy, disease-free life as their white counterparts. The beverage industry spends over $1 billion in marketing sugary drinks a year. To compare, the Healthy Beverage Partnership receives $300,000 a year to do our work. Studies found that Black teens were exposed to 2.3 times more ads for sugary drinks than non-Hispanic white teens, and Latino preschoolers saw 79% more ads on TV. And the industry is very intentional about this. Here's a direct quote from the Chief Marketing Officer of Coca-Cola, and this is their Vision 2020 plan. And here you can see they're in bold. They're specifically targeting youth, and not just youth of color, or Latino and Black youth. This marketing is relentless. It's being found in schools, in sports venues, in buses. It's all over social media where youth spend most of their time, showcasing our children's favorite colors, characters, sports heroes, actors from their favorite TV shows. So to combat this marketing, Healthy Beverage Partnership has worked on educational campaigns, exercise programming, vending machine policies, and our next step is really bigger P policies to have a larger impact on our community's health and really support programs and activities like those that Chris talked about at Denver Public Schools. So we're focused on supporting a healthy drinks and kids meal policy strategy, which ensures drinks served and advertised to children at restaurants are healthy ones without added sugar, such as water, sparkling water, or unflavored milk. And we're focused on this because when you look at the data, the average family eats out 4 to 5 times a week. And recent research actually showed that the trend of ordering out from restaurants has not changed, even during the pandemic. That's still a large trend. And so by changing what's on the menu, we're really sending a message to our kids and families that eating healthy matters. Research shows that when the default beverage option on a children's menu is healthy, it's chosen 66% of the time. So we're really saying restaurants are part of the solution to creating this culture of health in our communities and making healthy options the norm. And so that a lot of these programs that focus on gardening and getting outside, that is the norm and kids are already doing it. And so it's imperative that we keep our kids healthy, especially now thinking of everything we've gone through with COVID. I will pause. I don't know if there's any questions, Rob, before I continue.
Yeah, well, great information, Andrea. It's sobering. Christine brings up, and I know that you will probably speak to this, but it's good that she called this out. Can you clarify what defines sugary drinks? Is it soda, et cetera, only, or do fruit juices fit in that category?
Fruit juices do. So it's sports drinks, soda, and juice. And I should have this information on hand, and it's not in my head. But there is a nutrition value that we're looking, and it's those drinks with the added sugar. And so when we're looking at the American Heart Association guidance, I think it's 6 teaspoons of sugar is the max amount children should be having. And every sugary drink that's served at a restaurant, the cans, the bottles, that's all over the daily limit. And so that's what we're looking at.
Great. And I'm curious about with restaurants, you know, some of this is a little bit of an awareness campaign. Some of it is education. How do you approach that with restaurants? You know, I mean, so that they, you know, they'll actually take action and say, oh, okay, yeah, we'll change our practices.
Yeah, and so we are looking at this as a policy strategy. This is a trend that's happening across the nation of passing these healthy drinks and kids meal policies in restaurants. And we're really mindful of right now, restaurants have been the hardest hit by the
Mm,
pandemic. And we're sensitive to that. And so we're doing this in collaboration with restaurants. We want them to be part of the solution of making our communities healthy again. So one, this is cost neutral to restaurants. There's no impact on their cost, and we're seeing that with the policies that are passed. The biggest change is their menu, which a lot of menus have gone online. So it's really looking at them changing that when on a children's menu, the options are healthy. And so that's an easy change. And it doesn't mean they can't sell sugary drinks. They absolutely can, but parents have the choice back to them. And so when the kid is ordering a drink, they say, this is what comes with it. And if they want to order a sugary beverage, it's their option too.
mhm. That's great. All right, yeah, well, we're caught up with questions, but if folks want to chime in, please do. We've had a side conversation. We'll loop back with that with Lauren and uh, uh, nutrition programs as well. So go ahead, Lauren and Andrea.
Yeah. So, in thinking of the topic of this panel, building healthy habits, the most important part of our work is collaborating with the community that is most impacted by the issue. And so, in order to build a culture of health here in Colorado, where we see healthy foods and drink options not only be prioritized, but are more frequently marketed and consumed, we need to work with the community to understand the current barriers and build awareness of these issues. So we've built local coalitions across Metro Denver. And here in Denver, we actually have what's called the Serve Kids Better Denver initiative. And we have our youth coalition that's part of that. And this is between Denver Public Health, the American Heart Association, and Viva Wellness. And so with this group, we've hosted over 81 events, engaged over 3,000 Denver residents on the topic of healthy drinks and kids meals, and collected more than 2,000 pledge cards indicating resident support of the policy. The community has supported in informing the best direction of our work and even the language we use. You may have noticed I don't often talk about obesity, but instead use the term too much weight for health or unhealthy weight status, which was community informed language and language that's more equitable. Our Serve Kids Better Denver Youth Coalition is made up of 18 youth leaders of color who are really passionate about the topic. Their mission, this was created by them, this is their words, not mine, is to educate youth about the ways that the sugary beverage industry purposely targets communities of color and to better the community's mental and physical health by promoting healthier alternatives to sugary beverages. And so really ensuring youth are leading these efforts is critical. It most impacts them, and they really want to build a better future for themselves that starts with making sure they are healthy enough to change the world. And so I just really quickly wanted to show a great example of the power of youth voices. This is from Howard County, Maryland. And back in 2018, Baltimore, Maryland, which is right outside of Howard County, passed a healthy drinks and kids meal policy. So,
Hey, big beverage companies.
Maybe you've noticed
Here in Howard County, we're buying fewer sugary drinks.
fewer than last year,
And the year before that.
Probably because of the connection to
diabetes and heart disease.
So we're confused. Why do you still spend so much money on promoting these sugary drinks?
All that great music,
All those great ads.
why not using this
It's all the good stuff.
nobody should be conned.
into drinking things that hurt them?
Not anymore.
What do you say?
Cheers.
I love what youth can do. I thought it was such a great short 30 seconds of them saying, we're done with this. We want healthy options again. And so that's something that our youth here in Denver are working to do. They're building a social media campaign themselves. So happy to share that when it comes out on Instagram. And so to end, we just want to say a big thank you to all of our organizations and partners that have endorsed our efforts. Thank you to Denver Urban Gardens, who's one of them. And in terms of interest in supporting us, if you're interested in endorsing these efforts, please send me an email. And if you're interested in learning more about our youth efforts, they're actually presenting next week Tuesday, April 27th from 2 to 3 p.m. This is our bi-monthly partner meeting, so please let me know if you're interested. And so thank you. Here's my contact information.
Andrea, thanks so much. That video says it all, doesn't it? Is there a link that we could get of that? Is that available?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
absolutely send
You want
it.
to put that on there? And could you repeat again that in the phrasing that in terms of obesity?
So we say too much weight for health or unhealthy weight status.
Unhealthy weight status, too much weight. Good to know. Good to know. Thank you, Nico. She's posted links to Serve Kids Better and You're the Cure, and Andrea's got the YouTube video on there. I'm going to pass it off. Christine's chiming in here with conversation about nutrition here, but Lauren, I'm going to pass it over to you. You know, we are a part of the Healthy Beverage Partnership and HFDK. We're a HFDK grantee. I will personally say it's just opened my eyes to all the things that Denver has done and just the networks that we are, have access to help, because this is a systemic problem. It requires systemic solutions. So Lauren, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Thanks so much for having me today. Let me just share my screen here. Let's see. I know we just did this.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. And keep those questions and comments coming in the Q&A and in the chat. It just makes it better if we know what you're interested in, what questions you have. So please continue to do that.
Perfect. And can you all see my slides okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So today I'm going to talk more about the Healthy Food for Denver's Kids initiative. A little bit about the background, progress, and impact we've made over the last year. And then I'll end by sharing some current funding opportunities that we have available. So for those who aren't familiar, the Healthy Food for Denver's Kids, or HFDK program, was started as a result of a citizen-led ballot measure that Denver voters approved November of 2018. It created a small sales and use tax increase, about a penny on a $10 purchase, that's established a special fund for healthy food and food-based education for youth in Denver. It's expected to generate approximately $11 million per year until 2028. And funds are being granted to local nonprofits, public schools in Denver, including EPS district, and city agencies through competitive grant making. So the funds are aimed at primarily serving low-income youth by providing year-round access to healthy food. So that could include grocery distribution, meals, snacks, and related food-based education. So teaching kids in a hands-on way about topics like farming and gardening, cooking, nutrition, and healthy eating. And then funds can also be used for local food purchasing, so to support our Colorado farmers and ranchers and really help build a resilient local food economy. And then funds must mainly benefit Denver and its residents, since it is a Denver sales tax. So funding decisions are made by a 13-member commission that includes city staff. We have 2 city council members, as well as representatives of the city and residents. We're really proud of the diverse representation on the commission, really across sector and demographics. And just a small plug, we're recruiting at least 2 new commission members this year. So if this is something that's interesting to you, please reach out. And then we hold all of our meetings, they're public on a monthly basis, currently on the 3rd Friday of the month on Zoom. So if you're ever interested in learning more about the work we do, please feel free to come to one of our meetings. And this is just a summary of the grant making we did in 2020. So last year was really the first big year of funding for us. And we partnered with 64 organizations, granting out close to $7 million, including the distribution of around 3.5 million meals to youth and their families during the pandemic. This is the list of the 2020 grantees, including Denver Urban Gardens, working with to implement healthy food access and food education programs across the city. You'll see we have a couple of DPS partners, so food and nutrition services. I mentioned in the chat, we're supporting them to build a large-scale greenhouse to provide fresh produce for school meals, as well as some individual schools within DP, and then several nonprofit partners across the city as well. This is a map just to show the geographic spread of the youth, primarily the youth that we're serving through these funds. So for folks who may be familiar with the inverted L, this geographic area outside primarily the I-70 and I-25 highway corridors, we know that those populations are disproportionately impacted by various health equity challenges. And so we're excited to ensure that these funds are really reaching those communities. I won't go into all of this in detail, but just an idea of the first 6 months of grant activities from our 25 grantee partners, just really reaching thousands of youth through food box distribution and meals, rescuing over 1 million pounds of produce, keeping it out of the landfill and distributing it to community members, growing 15,000 pounds of produce in new gardens and farms that are sprouting up across our city, while also creating youth food jobs and educating youth and adults and their families about healthy food and growing food. So we're really excited about the reach and impact so far. I wanted to make a point for myself to pause if there are any questions. Otherwise, I'm happy to keep going.
We don't have any questions, but I just wanted to comment because I love the, all the partners there. It's like, oh yeah, we're working with them. We're working with them. And Andrea's nodding her head too. And I'm sure Chris is too. This is what is really great about it is just making those connections, because many hands light work. Well, still it's hard work, but still, I think it's just a really great program. Really, really great.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Rob. I'll talk a little bit more about partnerships because it's created such incredible synergies, I think, across the city so far, and we're excited for more.
Yeah, you've been a great matchmaker, let me tell you.
That's what I love. I love facilitating those introductions. It's really, really meaningful. So these are just some highlights of what current grantees have shared with us about what's been working over the first 6 months. I think grantees are really taking a community-based approach, relationship and trust building, working with their participants and families to really understand their food needs and honoring their lived experiences, trying to promote empowering narratives that really highlight basic human needs, food as a human right, and trying to sort of stay away from narratives around like bad food or charity food systems work. A lot of grantees are partnering with each other and other organizations to deliver food education and food distribution in really innovative ways. They're pivoting their strategies, like providing drive-through pantries or virtual learning, and really adapting to the challenges that COVID has presented to everyone. And then also including food resources like recipes and nutrition information that goes out with food boxes, and trying to be really sensitive to making those materials and food culturally relevant. Some challenges and opportunities that I think grantees have seen. Obviously, COVID has been very challenging and reduced capacity and created logistical and distribution challenges. And so grantees, for example, school food pantries that may have previously been able to provide choice models for their students to go in and pick out the foods they want, having to shift to pickup boxes or drive through, again, providing those culturally relevant food options, and also local food. So we know supply chains, we're struggling during COVID and trying to connect grantees with more local food producers as a solution there. We know that online learning and Zoom fatigue, it's both a blessing that we can have all of these Zoom meetings and connect with each other, but also there are lots of families that may not have consistent access to internet, or just people being tired of online too. So it's kind of striking that balance with how we can reach people in a meaningful way and stay connected. And then data collection during the pandemic has been hard for grantees, just as, again, we don't have that same kind of human to human connection. And then I think there's also a large opportunity around our federal nutrition programs. So SNAP or food stamps, WIC, so women, infants, and children, and just trying to connect families more with those and seeing how Healthy Food for Kids can provide a resource around those opportunities. This is just a highlight of some of the exciting synergies that have been happening between grantees so far. So for example, Denver Food Rescue is providing education to elementary school students at Stedman and Park Hill. Doug has been a tremendous partner with multiple grantees. I know that you all are working with Strive Prep Smart, which is one of the charter schools in the city, about providing virtual classes, and then collaborating with Slow Food Denver on developing a food justice curriculum. There are just so many examples of grantees figuring out what one person has as a resource and what another might be lacking, and how we can try to meet everyone's needs and make sure food doesn't go to waste and that education is delivered in a really impactful way. So I'll shift now and just share a couple of funding opportunities we have available right now. So we have micro grants. These are for requests up to $10,000. And we have a particular emphasis right now on food storage and then also food delivery. But really any idea that an applicant proposes, we're happy to review. Right now, applications for microgrants are being accepted year-round on a rolling basis. And then I can share the links and the slides with you all. And then we actually have a current funding opportunity for larger dollar amounts. So right now, applicants can request between $100,000 and $1.5 million. Applications are due next week, but this is for a one-year grant term. And again, schools, nonprofits, and city agencies can apply for these funds to provide healthy food and education for youth in Denver. I know I'm at time here, so this is our contact information, our website, and then the best way to stay in touch with us about future funding opportunities is to sign up for our email newsletter.
Thanks so much, Lauren. I have to thank you for calling out the Strive Prep kids, because they're actually today they're making healthy snacks. They're coming up with recipes, and they're doing a taste testing contest. And I was invited, but of course I had to be here. So I was like, oh, but they're going to do it again. They're actually going to do it again. So I'll be able to go go to that. Lauren, you just, you've done such a, you've done such a great job of herding the cats, really, reflecting on it, what do you feel like has been the biggest gain? What do you feel has been the biggest benefit so far? It's hard, we're still trying to collect data and figure things out, but what do you think is the biggest benefit you've seen so far with HFDK?
Oh, I know that there are so many incredible organizations doing this work in our city. So I think like the essence of what we're trying to do is provide resources. So in this case, monetary support, but also technical assistance and capacity building support for organizations. And just, I think hopefully the funding is really just helping you all do your work. But then the partnerships, I think that, we talked about this a lot, but just seeing organizations come together and work together in ways they may not have even known each other before the grant program. And so if we can help make those connections, I think that builds a stronger, more resilient food system for after, when this grant program ends.
I agree. And I'm just going to put this question for both you and Andrea. Have other cities talked to you about, what are they interested in? Where are other places where it's like, yeah, they're trying to do something with this? So Andrea, I'll open that question to you first.
Yeah, I think definitely we have so many more resources in Metro Denver. And so we are seeing this be of interest in Pueblo, in areas like Durango, Grand Junction, like the Mesa County. But just needing to understand what resources are available, technical assistance, understanding, what are the best practices we have used. But yeah, I think there's absolutely more interest outside of our little bubble here.
Yeah, I think eyes are on you to see and learn. Lauren, anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, just that I think because our program is so new, we've been trying to learn from other initiatives. So I know like Seattle, Philadelphia, Boulder, DC, a lot of other cities have sugary beverage taxes that are a little different than Healthy Food for Kids, but still they're collecting tax funds to grant out for health equity programs. I've been trying to reach out to other people to learn from them. And then hopefully as we get more experience, we can also share with other cities as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. I have one comment here that Christine had. Unfortunately, PE has been eliminated from some elementary schools during COVID. So no opportunity for exercise other than recess, and no discussion about healthy habits, eating vegetables, fruits, whole grains. Yeah, less time for that. It affects it, and that parents are stressed during this time as well. So it's especially important to introduce this now, which is a really good segue into what Mara is doing. And she says here, Feeding America in Seattle is a great resource for sugary beverages. That's a great resource, yeah. So Mara, tell us about the Chef Ann Foundation. Go ahead.
Hey everyone, I'm gonna just share my screen here for a minute, if that's okay. Just one. Okay. Hopefully this will work. Yeah.
It's coming. It's
Coming.
Yeah,
All
there we are.
There we
Okay.
go. Okay. Oh, hold on. Present.
There we
No,
go.
just a minute. So this is really exciting for me to be part of this, and I am just remembering, Lauren, you in your previous role, I think, and having lunch with you at Slow Food Denver. You guys invited us up and you had the team lunch, which was so much fun. I loved that. So when Lauren worked at Slow Foods Denver, they invited our team, the Chef Ann Foundation team, to their offices, and they had this they had this potluck, and everyone made something and we all got to try it. It was so much fun. So anyways, that was great. A great little memory I got. It's great to be here, everyone. I work for the Chef Ann Foundation, which is a national nonprofit headquartered in Boulder County. And what we do is pretty simple. We help school districts move from a processed heat and serve model to a cook from scratch model. And it sounds really simple, but I'm going to get into it just a little bit more. The Chef Ann Foundation was founded in 2009 by Chef Ann Cooper, who some of you might know, but up until January, she was the Food Nutrition Services Director for Boulder Valley School District. And she has finally retired, which is unbelievable. The woman probably has about 6 different jobs, but she's retired from Boulder Valley School District at this time. And she had been there for about 11 years. When she moved to Boulder from San Francisco, she was the food service director at Berkeley Unified School District before that. She moved to Boulder because they were really trying to create a scratch cook school food model. And at the time, the food service director just didn't have the capacity for it. So she decided after that she wanted to start this foundation because there were too many districts across the country that needed resources to move to cook from scratch. And she said she couldn't keep going from district to district because she was getting too old. So she needed to create a foundation. Currently, the Chef Ann Foundation works with just about 11,000 schools has worked with 11,000 schools across the country in every state. So this is kind of just a little bit of a map that shows our reach, which is exciting because for those who are invested in healthier school food, for those who are excited about school food reform, what I can tell you is that at any given time, we have a wait list of about 400 schools for grants across the country. So people are wanting to make change. This is just a little bit of local numbers. So we prioritize Colorado as it's our home. We do a lot of a program launch in Colorado, and we've worked with nearly 300 schools. These are just some schools in Denver that we have put salad bars into. Salad bars, if you guys don't know, salad bars have been on hiatus for the last year, obviously during COVID and the pandemic. But we've been in touch with our contact at the CDC, and we have been in touch with our districts, and we will be reopening our salad bar grants in the fall of 2021. So we're real excited. And if you are interested in that, stay tuned because we'll be reopening. Again, this is just a little bit about Anne, but a lot of times people local to Colorado know about her. But one of the things that that we see is that Anne came from a mainstream chef profession, and she just got very interested in school food and understanding what was going on with our youngest generations. Most, critically, that there were 30 million lunches being served daily, and 21 million of them were being served to kids on the free and reduced lunch program, coming from families that earn less than $45,000 a year. And the food they were being served, in many cases, cost less than a cup of coffee from Starbucks. And she felt really strongly about getting involved. So, one of the issues that we see in school food, so we've been talking a little bit about, school food, and what we've seen over the last year is a return to processed packaged foods during COVID. It's really hard. It stinks on every level, but so did a lot over the past year. So we, we have to recover from it. The average cost of a school meal is about $3.60. The districts we work with, we try and get them to a spend of about $1.30 on the food cost. Okay, it's challenging because that means the other half is split between labor and administrative cost, right? And it's kind of like this cycle right now to understand school food, because we all are pushing for a stronger minimum wage in our country, right? We want to move minimum wages up to $15 an hour. But once we do that, it's also going to cut into the food cost on a program like school food, because the feds are not increasing the reimbursement. So it's like, if you have labor costs that go up in a regular, food service job, or product ingredients that go up, you have to increase the cost of your product. In school food, it's a little bit more challenging. So we're kind of faced with that. And what you're going to see, unfortunately, as labor rates go up, which is good, you're going to see a decrease in spend on food cost unless we get more money out of the federal program. Another thing that we see is culinary talent is really limited in school food. Traditionally, there has been an administrative component to rising up in the ranks. A lot of times registered dietitians have rose up to become school food directors, which is a good thing. But the problem is, for those of you who work in school food or any sort of food, you understand if you order a chicken nugget, you bring it in, you put it in the freezer, you can keep it there for 6 months, you can bring it out, you can reheat it and serve it. There's a lot less that can go wrong than if you're going to make, let's say, a strip from scratch that has 8 ingredients. You've got to procure those 8 ingredients. You got to procure the right amounts. You've got to get the contracts on them. You've got to train your labor on them. You've got to manage your shrink or your loss on the product. And that takes culinary talent. I mean, think about any of the fast casual restaurants that you go to, Mod Market or Chipotle or anything. All of those pieces are put together, and people coming from a culinary background understand this. People who are coming from more of an administrative background think about it more in an administrative way. So the Chef Anne Foundation is really focused on training from a culinary perspective. Also, we've talked about this, nutrition is undervalued. So I think we've seen this over the last year. Our country has a history of thinking about hunger relief in a certain way. And it's literally calorie relief, right? It's not nutrition relief. And we really have to change the way we think about that. It is not just about filling bellies. We have to think about the springboard that certain nutrition provides people to thrive from and to recover from. And unfortunately, our USDA Foods program that supports food in school really relies on a lot of processed food. And we're in discussions all the time as much as we can with the USDA and with the AMS, which is the federal program through that provides the procurement agreements for the food through USDA. This is we're entering a great year for many reasons. One is the Child Nutrition Reauthorization, which is the federal program that oversees the National School Lunch Initiative, is going to be reauthorized. And we're 6 years late on that reauthorization because it's been tied up in partisan issues for 6 years, but it's going to happen. There's bipartisan support for it, and keep your eyes open for anything that's coming out, because I think we are going to move in a progressive way. One thing I just wanted to talk about is scratch cooking. Such a it's a cozy term, right? Everyone thinks about it. You think of scratch cooking, you think about being at home and making your pasta, and people think of it as a nice to have, but actually scratch cooking affects so many components of the system. And, I really urge people to think about that and the comparison to processed packaged model. When a school food person orders in a chicken nugget, the chicken nuggets usually have between 25 and 30 ingredients in them. These school food professionals have no choice over those ingredients. They just order the chicken nugget in, right? And if they're going to make a homemade chicken strip, right, with 8 ingredients, they have the choice of maybe buying a local poultry. Of if you're going to soak it in buttermilk, they could buy a higher quality local buttermilk, a higher quality breadcrumb. They could look at things that are not regulated, like dyes, and maybe make choices around products that don't have dyes or different levels of ingredients. We really have to empower and train our school food teams to make these choices, not just for the health of the kids, which it's true. So the National School Lunch Program has nutrition guidelines on saturated fat, on whole grains, on protein, on sodium, but still not everything is equal. If you take a packaged processed food item that meets the criteria and then you weigh it against a scratch cooked item, you're going to get a lot more fiber in your scratch cook item. And fiber is really important because processing really dilutes the fiber. So we really have to think about that. Also, sugar is not regulated in the National School Lunch Program. So making choices that reduce sugar is really important. Also, this directly relates to equity, right? Again, it's like filling bellies. We're not just feeding people calories. We have to feed them the most optimum food that can help them thrive. And then all this relates to the environment. Every choice, every ingredient, every package that a school district purchases can be purchased in a different way. So what the Chef Ann Foundation does is we have really 2 tracks. We have implementation grants and leadership development. And we work with school food professionals across the country to implement them. We have certain levels. We have the Lunchbox, which is a national resource that anyone can go to. It's built for school food professionals, and it was Ann's commitment to the country to open source all of these resources to every district. School Food Institute has 11 USDA compliant for continuing education, scratch cooked courses on it that school food professionals can take. And there's a wait list for scholarships, but the school food professionals in your districts can sign up for those scholarships. And then we have Get Schools Cooking, which is it's about a $250,000 grant, and that grant will open again in August of 2022. 2022. And that we work with the districts hand in hand over 3 years to move them from processed to eat and serve to cook from scratch. And then salad bars. Salad bars are an incredible microcosm of scratch cooking. Any district that wants to move into scratch cooking, we recommend salad bars first, because it is not as hard to then moving an entire district to scratch cooking, but you have to look at all the components. You have to look at fresh prep, fresh procurement, fresh storage. You have to look at your students engaging in the taste of fresh fruits and vegetables. So all that is really important. And that's kind of where we go from here. And that's how we look at things. So yeah, that's where we're at. That's where we're at with scratch cooking and school food. I don't know if there are any questions.
Wow, Mara, that's really inspirational, and it just speaks to, so many things on the ground, like the challenges we have to face, but it almost sounds like a more local way of approaching it. Would you say that, or?
Well, definitely. So we only work with districts who want to be a self-operated cook from scratch program. So
Gotcha.
we really try and move districts away from food service management companies. There's not enough margin in school food to add a food service management company into that. And also, we want those culinary teams in school to engage with their communities and to really think about the choices for their community. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Mara, we're out of time. I think I was really looking forward because I didn't know much about Chef Hannah Foundation. So it was really a pleasure to have you. It's a pleasure to have all of you, Chris, Lauren, Andrea. What a great conversation. Please let people know, those of you that are still with us there, please let people know about this, the recording that's available. Spread the word of these programs, all the hard work that all these people are doing, and the organizations that they serve and the kids they serve. In terms of Doug, we are so committed to supporting youth and healthier lives, and through the programs that we offer, encouraging kids to be a part of the gardens, encouraging them to eat healthier. If you could take a moment and fill out our survey, please do. We certainly need that support in terms of grant funding. So I put the link in the chat there. We have tomorrow, we've got a great panel talking about climate action. We're going to look at climate action from regenerative agricultural perspectives, and then the broader perspective of what we can do to help to support our climate. And then if you want to get involved with Doug, our community network is a great way to do it. Become a sustaining member. And of course, look at our programs on doug.org, DUG.org. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye, everybody.